Honda hasn't thrown everything out and started over with the N-Van for 2026. And honestly, that's probably the right call. This is a vehicle that has been doing its job well since 2018, quietly serving the needs of urban delivery drivers, small business owners, and the occasional weekend adventurer who figured out that a K-Van is actually a remarkably capable companion when you're hauling gear to a campsite. The 2026 update isn't trying to reinvent anything. It's more like Honda sat down, looked at what people actually use this thing for every day, and made a list of the things that could be meaningfully better without messing with what already works. On the outside, nothing dramatic has changed. The boxy shape remains, and it remains for good reason. That silhouette isn't a styling choice so much as a mathematical one. Every squared-off edge exists because it maximizes the usable space inside, while keeping the footprint small enough to navigate the kind of narrow streets that make up a significant portion of Japan's urban road network. The pillarless opening on the passenger side is still there too, and it continues to be one of those features that sounds like a small detail until you've spent a day loading and unloading cargo in a tight space. Once you've worked with it, going back to a conventional door setup feels like a step backward. The flat cargo floor, achieved by folding the rear seats down, remains a core part of what makes this vehicle genuinely useful rather than just theoretically practical. Step inside, though, and the changes become immediately noticeable. The old analog instrument cluster is gone, replaced by a 7-inch digital display that brings the N-Van's interior into a more contemporary place. It's a clean, readable setup that makes information easier to absorb at a glance, something that matters when you're making dozens of stops throughout a workday and don't have the mental bandwidth to squint at gauges. USB-C is where the world has landed, and having it built in rather than bolted on as an afterthought is the kind of practical improvement that daily users will appreciate far more than any press release bullet point suggests. The most substantive mechanical news comes with the Nature Style variant, which carries a turbocharged 660cc 3-cylinder engine producing 63 horsepower, up from the 52 horsepower of the naturally aspirated unit it replaces. In the context of the global automotive market, those numbers don't leap off the page. In the context of K-car dynamics, they mean something real. K vehicles operate within strict dimensional and engine displacement regulations, so every additional horsepower represents genuine engineering effort to extract more performance within a tightly defined box. The extra power becomes most apparent when the van is loaded, which is often, given what it's typically used for, or when it encounters roads that aren't perfectly flat. It also makes the driving experience feel less labored in general, which contributes to a more pleasant day behind the wheel for the people who spend the most time there. The Nature Style trim, which was previously marketed as the Style Plus Nature, keeps its outdoorsy visual identity intact. Black exterior accents and graphics inspired by outdoor recreation give it a slightly different character from the more workaday trims in the lineup. Honda is clearly positioning this variant for buyers who see the N-Van as something beyond a purely commercial tool, people who might use it for deliveries Monday through Friday and load it up with camping equipment on Saturday. It's not a dedicated off-roader by any stretch, but with the turbocharged engine and the option of all-wheel drive, it can handle terrain that would give a strictly city-oriented vehicle real trouble. That broadened capability opens the model up to a buyer who might not have previously considered a K-Van a realistic option.
Color choices are getting some attention on the fun trim as well, with 2 new options entering the range: Autumn Yellow Pearl and Botanical Green Pearl. These aren't subtle, forgettable hues. They're the kind of colors that reflect a deliberate effort to make the N-Van feel like a lifestyle choice as much as a practical one. There's a growing contingent of buyers who want their utility vehicles to have some personality, and giving them more expressive color options is a low-cost way to widen the appeal without changing anything fundamental about the product. Beyond factory colors, the Honda Access accessories catalog gives owners the ability to go further with a wide range of additions covering both aesthetics and function. The result is a vehicle platform that can be configured quite differently depending on what the owner actually needs, whether that's maximizing cargo efficiency or leaning into the outdoor exploration angle. Safety has received genuine attention across the whole range. front parking sensors are now standard equipment, which is an addition that makes immediate practical sense for a vehicle that spends a lot of its life navigating tight spaces, backing up to loading areas, and parking in spots that leave very little margin for error. The addition of a post-collision braking system is more significant in a different way. This technology activates after an initial impact to reduce the likelihood of a secondary collision. It's the kind of feature that tends to get overlooked in normal driving, but can make a meaningful difference in crash scenarios where the first impact leaves a vehicle uncontrolled. These features work alongside the existing Honda Sensing suite, which covers a range of driver assistance functions that have become increasingly standard across the brand's lineup. Even the base-level trims haven't been left behind. The entry G and L variants now include push-button engine start, a feature that was previously limited to higher specifications. It's a small quality-of-life improvement, but it adds a sense of modernity to what would otherwise be the most utilitarian version of the vehicle. A sudden acceleration suppression function has also been added at these levels, which is designed to prevent unintended lurches in situations where throttle input and vehicle movement don't match what the driver intended. For commercial users who are in and out of the vehicle repeatedly throughout the day, often in congested or pedestrian-heavy environments, that kind of safety net has real value. Pricing reflects the added equipment, though Honda has managed the increases carefully enough that the N-Van retains its position as an accessible option within the kei car segment. The range opens at 1,498,200 yen for the base G configuration with two-wheel drive and a manual gearbox. At the other end, the fully equipped turbocharged Fun Nature style with all-wheel drive and a continuously variable transmission comes in at 2,269,300 yen. For what buyers get at that level, turbocharged power, AWD, a full suite of safety tech, and a trim package oriented toward lifestyle use, that figure remains competitive against comparable kei vehicles and far more attainable than crossing into the compact SUV segment, which is what some of these buyers might otherwise consider. What the 2026 N-Van really illustrates is that thoughtful, incremental development can keep a vehicle relevant without the cost and disruption of a full redesign. The fundamentals, the space efficiency, the pillarless door, the flat floor, the overall durability and reputation for reliability were right from the beginning. What Honda has done here is layer in improvements that acknowledge how buyers are actually using the vehicle and what the technological landscape now offers. Digital displays, USB-C, enhanced safety systems, more power in the variant that needs it most, these aren't changes for the sake of change. They're responses to legitimate feedback and evolving expectations. In a market where the conversation is dominated by crossovers, SUVs, and an accelerating push toward electrification, the N-Van represents a philosophy that doesn't get talked about enough. Small, efficient, purpose-built vehicles that use space intelligently and serve genuine daily needs without demanding more fuel, more parking space, or more money than the task actually requires. That philosophy has kept this van going for nearly a decade, and the 2026 update suggests it has more runway ahead. Not every vehicle needs to be transformative. Some just need to be reliably, usefully good, and that's exactly what the N-Van continues to be.